Hello, everybody, and welcome to Health Confidential with Simone Gisondi, the podcast where the secrets of the body meet the mysteries of healing. Each week, I explore the powerful world of holistic medicine, blending ancient wisdom and cutting edge science, conventional insight, and unconventional truths to decode some of the toughest cases and the most misunderstood conditions. I'm a certified holistic cancer therapies practitioner, a registered holistic nutritionist, and certified regenerative detoxification specialist. I am not a medical doctor. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The diagnosis and therapies discussed here may not be right for you. Please consult a qualified healthcare medical provider before making changes to your health. To learn more about my work or to experience the power of the custom-made healing protocols that I develop, designed specifically for your unique body, your unique biochemistry, your history, and your internal terrain, visit simonegisondi.com and book a private consultation with me. And if this episode speaks to you, follow me on Instagram at simone.gisondi and share this episode with someone you love. Thank you for listening, and welcome to today's episode of Health Confidential. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Health Confidential. Today's conversation is one that I've been waiting to have for what seems like forever, because it brings us into one of the most misunderstood, the most dismissed, and yet even the most essential dimensions of healing that a lot of people don't talk about and a lot of people don't even know about. Because when we talk about healing, at least in my work that I've done, most people feel immediately like they have to do protocols, eat certain ways, certain foods, detox, supplements, scans, lab work, blood work, treatments, surgeries, nervous system work, mindset, discipline, exercise, so on and so forth. And I'm not discounting that those do not matter. Yes, they do, of course. But there's another layer underneath that almost no one talks about and no one understands just how important it is. And everybody dismisses it, cheapens it, or turns it into something that's spiritual and vague. And I'm sure that you're wondering what that is, but that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. And my guest is none other than Lisa M. Harrison. So if you haven't seen her, she's very popular on YouTube. I highly suggest you go and check out all of her work like I did. I binge watched a lot of her work. So of course I had to have her on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a conscious explorer, a spiritual teacher, and sovereignty-oriented voice whose work is centered around awakening, remembrance, human potential. Yes, she'll talk to us about that. And of course, the deeper architecture of reality. She has spent years exploring the edges of consciousness, the unseen layers of human experience, and the capacities we may be remembering as individuals, but also as a collective, because we are all part of the collective. So today I wanted to bring Lisa in so that we can have the conversation that sits at that very unique intersection, if you will, of healing, consciousness, love, energy, sovereignty, which is very important to me. You all know if you follow me on Instagram, and the body's deeper intelligence. But I don't want to define it too quickly because Lisa's going to be the one who's going to be telling us all about it. And the real question is not simply how do we heal, but what does it take to heal? Lisa, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope I can live up to that. That was quite the intro.
Well, I'm honored to have you on the show because, as I mentioned, I actually binge watched a lot of your work, and I really want people to understand the depth of the transmissions that you have. So, before we talk about what is it that makes us heal, let's tell the audience whether healing from anything, right off the bat, I want people to understand this. I've been talking about it forever. Can people heal from absolutely anything? Because a lot of people live in fear.
Absolutely anything.
Absolutely anything. Bar none.
Bar none.
Okay. So
I mean, that sounds simple, and it's not necessarily, but yes, the answer is yes. And do you want me to elaborate?
Yes, absolutely. Most of the teachers that I've studied under, they've all said, I mean, the body in its infinite wisdom under divine design can heal anything, and it's equipped to heal anything. But there are definitely layers and things that we have to tap into to be able to bring that out and awaken it, because it's dormant in us. So I want people to understand, I understand it, but I want people to understand that, because they think that certain diseases, and even certain diseases within the disease, like for example, pancreatic cancer or brain cancer, people think, well, that's actually those are the ones that always kill people. So of course, those have such small, the diagnosis has such small survival rates that, yeah, I'm probably not going to survive that. And I really want to drive that home. Yes, you could heal that too.
If we understood the power, really, I mean, it's spoken about in New Age circles in such a flippant, airy-fairy way, but if we truly understood the power of our thoughts and our words, we would, well, the world would be a different place. We would be different people, and we would be in a completely different physical state if we truly understood the true power. And you gave pancreatic cancer as an example. One of the things in my observation is the pancreas is very much connected to joy, the sweetness of life. And when people have a lot of pain, they hold on to a lot of pain, they don't allow or appreciate the sweetness that life can offer and those sweet moments. It doesn't matter how many blood tests you run and how many protocols you do and how many vitamins you take and how much you work out. If you can't get to the core of the gift and have appreciation for the gift and the sweetness and the love that's available, the pancreas will let you know.
Oh, I love that. The pancreas will let you know.
Mm.
And so in that regard, because you said that people don't understand the power of thoughts, would you say, or at least let us know, is it the thoughts that we have for ourselves, or the thoughts that we even, when we say to others?
Both,
all.
But especially when it comes to our own health and our own conditioning, the words that we speak to ourselves about ourselves, the body responds. The body has its own consciousness, and you're constantly having a conversation with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it like your thoughts about yourself are a two-way conversation, and the body just takes orders. I'm not
even
good
inputs.
at this. I'm not. So the body goes, okay, we're not.
That's so true, because it's an instruction, and I think that that's also comes from the things that we do, the foods that we eat, and all of that. Is that true?
There's plenty of evidence over the years that you can do, which is funny. I'm a smoker. There's plenty of evidence that you can do things that are perceived as negative to the body or harmful to the body, or that we've been told is harmful to the body, and have zero effect because of the mindset.
So then the mindset overrides.
Overrides. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel like I'm harming myself. I don't feel like, oh, what is it doing?
Oh my.
For me, I mean, certainly since 2020, there's been a lot of information come out about tobacco specifically, about nicotine specifically, and the role it plays. And that, and funnily enough, so many really powerfully energetic people that I know smoke. Whether they smoke tobacco, some smoke pot, but they smoke. And it's either a grounding, it's very grounding. It is for me, it's very grounding. I'm away with the fairies if I don't. But there's plenty of evidence. And even in books, like if you go back to, I think it was The Peaceful Warrior. Do you remember that book?
Mm-hmm.
Peaceful Warrior? They went out, they got drunk, And the next morning, the teacher was fine because he talked about overriding. You know, there's been other masters from the East who have, one took I think he took enough mushrooms to probably put 20 people out. Absolutely fine. Didn't have any effect on him. And he did it to show that you can override. He did it as a demonstration, essentially. So it's the power of the mind, the power of the belief. Belief is big. And knowing how to increase and work with your life force.
Life force.
Yeah.
The gift that has been given to us generously by the divine. What would you say to the audience that life force is?
It's your soul.
The soul, the energy of the soul.
Mm. And one of the things, I guess, where I've diverged from a lot of the New Age belief is around the chakras. Do you remember I think it's Pink Floyd album cover with the pyramid, the fractal?
Yeah.
In my experience, my knowing, there's really only like one core energetic point, which is what I call the heart point. And it's not the heart chakra. It's higher than that. It's up here. Mm-hmm. And it's where the soul actually does connect to the body. It's where it first initially enters and makes that connection. And from there, it grounds in the body, in the sacral. The sacral is the seat of the soul. It's where we are, grounded in the body. And the energy flows between your sacral, your heart, your head. These are the 3 points.
So there's 3 points.
And when that energy is flowing, there is a state, another word that's been diminished, is a state of love, of unconditional love, that flows with this energy because it is who we are. Unconditional love is our foundational frequency. And when that is flowing with no blocks, not only, it's not an emotion. This is what we've got to get past. Love is not an emotion. It's a state of being. It's literally a frequency state of being. And when that is flowing, the body is reacting, responding, and emitting a frequency that is as close as it can possibly be to your divine state, to your original state. And it will express even visually. You'll see visual changes. You'll certainly feel internal health changes.
Yes,
it's quite remarkable.
Yes, of course. And I think that humanity, if I dare say that, overall has misunderstood the very force that it needs the most. And not just for healing, but just for its own existence. It's an existential thing. Hence why disease rates are so high, because we've gone the furthest that we have been able to get to from love. But before we talk about love as a healing frequency, much like what you just said now, I wanted to touch on, why do you think love has been so misunderstood?
I think that's been a deliberate manipulation. Because if we could remember the true power of it, like I said, the world would be a very different place. It's a weapon, even. Love is a weapon as well. Because of what we are capable of doing with love as our motivating force. When you are motivated by love and not fear, it's a different game.
In what way?
People think that when you fear nothing, that you have nothing to lose and therefore you become dangerous. That's one way of thinking about it. As you know, we see it all the time in TV and movies. You know, the guy's got nothing left to lose. He's prepared to go out and take the world with him. You know, that kind of thing. But if the motivation wasn't fear and wasn't fear of loss, that was absolute love for self, for humanity, for knowing what is the bigger reality and having unconditional love for that, you're even more dangerous to the systems.
I mean, especially because if you see how much they push fear towards us, towards the collective, because obviously they've created the division. They obviously want people to live in fear, scarcity, poverty, disease, death.
Well, when you think about it as in the sort of frequency ranges, right? When you're up here in fear, when you're up here in love, the energy of the systems of control are way down here, frequency-wise, right? Mm-hmm. And my saying is they can't punch up. So they need to bring you down into the range where they can mess with you. And that's why the fear-mongering. That's why the programming. That's why the distortions. It's always to pull you out. Because if we're left alone, if we are completely left alone, we will just go there. That's our natural state, is to be in this state of love and unconditional love if we're left alone. If there's no interference, no distortion, no manipulation, no lies, no nothing, no fear-mongering, we will automatically gravitate towards it. So it's got to be constant to just keep you down here within range, within punching range.
I took a course from this hypnotherapist, and he was describing sort of on the same kind of vein that you are. And he was talking about how, he said, let me give you a visual. If you think of somebody, let's say you're on a cliff or something, he said, would it be easier for you to pull the person down, or would it be easier for him to pull you up? It's so much easier for them to pull us down to their level than to rise, or for us to pull them up, because they're obviously the fear. But so you said that if we were left to our own devices and all of the fear and the fear-mongering and all of that was to be eliminated, we would just naturally rise or ascend, if you will. Even with all the conditioning that's been done to humanity over the last however long, we would still be able to do that?
Yep. Yep. It's our natural state that we are magnetically, you could put it, drawn to. And the opposite magnetic pull has to be constantly there to stop us from going there.
Well, that certainly explains why they continue to work so hard to bring us down and to incite fear and to create war and to make us live in states of scarcity of all things. Scarcity of food, scarcity of fuel, scarcity of love, scarcity of everything that we need.
Doesn't it tell you just how kind of magnificent and powerful we really are? When you think about just how much, in how many ways, we're under influence.
Every second of every day.
We must be a big deal. Yeah. We must be a big deal for them to be putting in so much effort.
That is so true. I mean, I've heard a lot of people who do a lot of channeling talk about that very thing. Like, I'm here because I love humans. Humans are amazing, and I love humanity. And yes, absolutely. For them to go to the lengths that they have gone to create the systems that they've created, and to continue to tirelessly work at keeping us down. You're absolutely right. We must be a very big deal. And we must possess something that is so important. So important.
There's a, I think it is this underlying unconditional love state of being that we are, that is potentially, it's not unique to humanity, but there's something about the humor in humanity too, that what we are capable of, the way that we can laugh in the face of pain sometimes, that is unique to us, it seems, that is not understood by others. Things like emotions, I guess, like bittersweet. When we can cry with laughter and we can laugh through our painful tears, there's something unique about that. We seem to be able to hold two things at the same time.
That's very powerful. The immense power of our mind, our consciousness. Lisa, if you'd indulge us, how did you come to this knowing? It's a knowing, I could tell, but you lived on the same planet as the rest of us, where fear mongering, scarcity was pushed. Of course, the entire premise of the feminine being suppressed and systems being installed, and just a whole theatrical production, a whole performance, if you will. What was the pivot point where you realized, wait a minute? Or were you always connected on this level? I'm just wondering what happened.
No, there's been countless moments of expansion and awakening throughout my life. But I, to some degree, and like I think many of us do, I remember being a very small child and thinking, I'm not in the right place. This is my saying is I got off the bus at the wrong stop. This is not where I'm supposed to be or what it's supposed to be like. Watching the way people interacted with each other was all wrong. I remember being 2 and 3 years old and yelling at my parents because they were arguing, and like, it's not supposed to be like this. You need to stop. This is all wrong. Always feeling like a stranger in a strange land.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that countless people hearing this will feel the same. There were unexplained moments of intuition or psychic ability that I didn't know what that was as a child. Seeing ghosts, strange phenomena that I learned not to talk about. Having, like a lot of children do too, a truth meter that made the adults around me uncomfortable. Knowing things without being told. When an adult would say something to me and I would just know they were lying, and I'd say, but I know this is the, so you learn to shut up. Um, and then, I guess I could thank Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. Okay, tell us. Must have been a
Um,
movie.
it was out on a limb, and I had lots of questions about all these experiences that I'd had as a child and whatever. And there was a Out on a Limb was playing over 3 days or something on TV. I don't know how many times they'd played it. It was old when I saw it, but um, I was seeing I was seeing experiences that I'd had. I was hearing her question things that I'd questioned. It was the first time I was introduced to the idea of a channeler. I'd never heard of that. Like it was my introduction to New Age. Yeah, you know. So from that point on, I lived at the local New Age bookshop and just read everything I could. And it's been my experience, and I've had several really big, profound ones that through absolute heartbreak comes heart expansion.
Biggest teacher.
Yeah. And there's always a choice when you have your heart broken of which way to go or how to react or how to respond, whether it's conscious or not. And in my case, it's always led to a heart expansion, which comes with an awareness, a consciousness expansion. It comes with touching, feeling, embodying that frequency of unconditional love. And also, when you're in that state, you can say that your psychic abilities just go through the roof too. Um, because all of the aspects of us, all of our abilities, it's not just we're all dampened. So when we're in that state of unconditional love, they're all switched on as well. It's not just your ability to heal the body.
But
So I
so
mean,
you,
even the last massive one was even only in 2023. So it's a process, an ongoing one for me.
so how does that happen, Lisa? Because you've said so through heartbreak, we've been so conditioned to think that when our heart is broken, it's a terrible thing. It's bad. It hurts. We're in pain. We grieve. We have grief. How do you? How does the expansion happen? How does that growth happen in the person? And I think that you have a choice at that moment, because you have people that go down the path of escapisms so that they don't feel that, whereas other people walk through the fire to go through the other side, and that's how they become a new version of themselves that's evolved and grown. But how exactly
Well,
does that?
heartbreak is usually inflicted upon us, so to speak, by
Mm-hmm.
another person.
Yeah.
And I think it's, like I said, it's often an unconscious process. So it's not like I can even say this is step one, this is step two, this is step three. But I believe, because I've never been asked this question before, so I've never really had to think about the mechanics of it, but I believe it's soul to soul. So when I when you tap into that heart space and you feel the soul of that person and you connect to the soul of that person, that love is unconditional. Soul to soul love is unconditional. And the behavior of the personality becomes secondary. You can see the distorted thinking or feeling or programs or whatever that led to the behavior. And your love for the being behind all of that is what overrides. And that is unlimited, that is unconditional, that is forever, and it is, yeah, it's primary. And all the rest of it just becomes this secondary consequences of their pain and their suffering and their programming and their fear and their
whatever they're dealing
that's
with
the
on
only
their
way.
end.
Yeah.
Because, and the reason I ask that is because if you think about it, a lot of diseases and diagnoses have been attributed to when we are the furthest away from love, especially when it comes to women. A lot of autoimmune disease is attributed to the fact that we put ourselves last and others first. And presumably we do that because we love them more than we love ourselves, perhaps. And then there's obviously something that happens in the body. It probably gets the message of, I don't love you. And much like how, if you remember that rice experiment, and I had a guest on my show who did the rice experiment, the wonderful Amber. And of course, there was another, that particular experiment has been done before, where you, when you throw, let's say, I don't want to even say the word hate, but let's say hate towards something, it spoils. When you withhold love from it, let's say that, it spoils. It's a state of destruction, a frequency of destruction. Whereas when you apply love to it, it grows, it expands, it heals. So then, if we go by that, does it mean that when we abandon ourselves, we give the message to our body that I'm withholding love from you, and I'm just going to apply it to something else? And therefore,
well, again, with that rice experiment, they often do 3 jars: the love jar, the hate jar, and the ignore jar.
oh, I never knew that.
Yeah. And the ignore jar usually ends up worse even than the hate jar.
No
Because
way.
at least the hate jar is getting some attention. So
true.
I know Amber very well, that you're referring to.
Yeah.
And I told her only recently that once she went public with the rice experiment, that my new saying was, I am a jar of rice. So every time I have a thought about myself that's not great, I remind myself that I'm a jar of rice. Anytime someone speaks to me or in a tone that's not great, it's like, I'm a jar of rice. You can keep that. If we think about ourselves that way, because that is what we're doing, we're talking to the water in our bodies, and water is absolutely programmable.
My God, I never thought about it, about the ignored. So the ignored has worse outcomes than the one that has hate. Because at least you still have, you're so right, because you're still throwing energy towards it. Whereas withholding energy altogether, it's like you've taken the oxygen away altogether.
Altogether.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So then, so withholding love, which is our natural state. But what happens when someone's trying to heal while, let's say, they live in fear? Can the body, I mean, of course the body hears, but does it feel that it's hunted? What happens when someone is, let's say, afraid of their diagnosis, of afraid of certain foods? Oh, I have an allergy to this, or afraid of symptoms. Because a lot of people, I feel depressed, I feel hungry, so it's a feeling. And they become almost afraid of their own body because they're afraid of how the body's going to react if they introduce that very same thing, the food, the substance, the whatnot. Like, for example, if you were to believe that smoking kills, and I know that a lot of people always said that smoking causes cancer, and maybe to some degree that's true because of the chemicals they have in it. However, a lot of people smoke because they're trying to calm themselves down. So that means that they're in their heart center area. There's something there. There's an energy there that is what typically leads to the. I mean, if you look at it, a lot of people that ended up with, and my father was one of them, and he was a smoker. So of course they attributed it to smoking because they had to find a reason. But a lot of grief, a lot of people who have their heart broken, or a lot of people who are in such deep emotional pain end up having, and it's well known, especially in the spiritual circles, that grief is held in the lungs. And typically that leads to lung cancer. So that energy is there, and it obviously destroys the tissue. But yeah, what happens when people try to heal while living in fear? And probably 99.9% of the people on planet Earth do, because the medical industry tries to make sure that we are afraid of a test result, a diagnosis, and all of that. And they go out of their way to try to just fix the body mechanically, always ignoring the entire idea of frequencies or energy or emotions or any trauma, whatnot. I mean, that's coming to the forefront right now. But a lot of people try to still heal while they're in deep, deep fear. What happens there?
Okay, there's a lot of things to address in that. How many people have you ever heard who will die almost on the day that the doctor says, you've got 3 weeks, you've got 3 months, and to the day. Now, I started questioning this at a very young age because I had a gay couple as neighbours, and they were 2 guys in their 60s, I guess. They'd been together forever. They'd been together since they were in their 20s. They were a gorgeous couple.
Mm.
And we got talking one day, and they were telling me about the whole, during the 80s and the whole AIDS experience that they went through, and how many of their friends would be diagnosed with HIV at least. And the ones who just went, I don't accept that, were fine. The ones who went into absolute fear and convinced they were going to die of AIDS were gone within, in some cases, months. And they saw that pattern over and over again. Another friend took his father to the doctor he'd been diagnosed with a form of cancer. And the doctor said, you'll be dead in 3 months. There's nothing we can do. Now, I want you to repeat that back to me.
What?
Mm.
Ooh, almost like
and
he
the
knew.
son just exploded in the doctor's office and said, what are you doing? How dare you?
What would even be the point of that? My God.
Because they don't want you messing with their
system.
not even the system, but their outcomes. So if a doctor expects you to survive, then he will officially expect you to survive. But if he doesn't want you messing with his statistics. Yeah. That was one of the things that came out of that. So personally, I don't do diagnoses at all. Even if I feel something's wrong with myself, I'm not going to a doctor for a diagnosis. I'm tuning into my body, feeling into where it is and what the underlying issue is, and addressing it. Addressing it emotionally, mentally, and with supplemental herbal, homeopathic, support, whatever I need, because I believe in those things. Okay. What else was in all of that you said? How to get out of fear. That's going to be an individual thing for everybody. But it starts, I think, with finding something to be grateful for about your body.
Mm.
Even if Even if you have to look back, like let's say you're in a really bad place physically right now and you can't get out of bed, you're bedridden, or you're in a lot of pain, then start with remembering when your body allowed you to do something you loved. Going for a swim, going riding a horse, playing a sport, giving birth, doing whatever it was that your body was strong and powerful in and allowed you to have an experience. And start remembering that and start feeling gratitude and actually thinking about gratitude and speaking it out loud. I am so grateful for the body and what it allowed me to do. I'm so grateful that I've had these experiences. I climbed this mountain because of this body. Wow. I gave birth to this incredible child. My body's a miracle. Look what it allowed me to do. Even if you have to go back into the past, because right now doesn't look or feel good, start feeling gratitude for the body and everything, this whole experience that it's allowed you to have. That's one place you can start. If you think about the things that you've gone through in the past, health-wise, that you have overcome, remind yourself of those. Remind yourself and remind the body, hey, you've been here before. You've dealt with shit before. Let's go. We can do this. Understand that it does have an innate knowing of how to achieve its optimal state, and it's always trying to be there. The body doesn't give up.
That's so true.
It's always trying to reach that state. If we just get out of our way, if we get out of its way with our negative thoughts and our fears and our programs and our, if we can get out of its way, it'll go there by itself.
So on what you said in the beginning, I want to tell people this, and I think I've said it on other episodes prior. I remember when I first went to nutrition school. So I went through my own medical thing and I went to study nutrition so that I can get myself back on track, because at the hands of the medical world, I was actually getting worse, not better. I wasn't progressing. And of course, there was that whole idea of like the fear mongering, because they were saying, because you had one stroke, you're at a higher risk for getting a second, and the second will kill you. So there was all of that. And of course, it is scary to hear. So I went to nutrition school, and I remember during my studies, and I did a whole bunch of studies at that time. I did detoxification, nutrition, and then of course I started reading Louise Hay, for example. And I remember one statistic that just floored me. A lot of people got the diagnosis of cancer and were told that they would die. And die they did, but when they did their autopsies, there was no cancer. It was a misdiagnosis, but because they believed it, they believed what they were told, that actually came to be. They manifested that. So that goes back to even what you said in the beginning, the power of what we believe, the power of belief. Yep. And then another story that I read was of the same thing. This one elderly man gets cancer, is told that he's going to die, and then his son goes and brings home, so I'm paraphrasing here, the story's out there, you can look it up. Son comes home with a piece of wood and says to his elderly father, "This comes from a sacred tree, and it has healing powers." And this man held it in his hand with the intent to heal himself and the strong belief of what his son said, that was coming from a sacred tree, and it was holy, and it was going to heal him. It had healing properties, and he healed. He healed from his cancer. So I really want people to understand just how much power there is in that, and not to believe. And I remember Esther Hicks, because I followed her, you talked a little bit about channeling. I remember when she said, on your planet, doctors literally scare you to death. Literally scare you to death.
Literally.
Yeah. So, but
On
what
that
does,
subject, I've got one more thing to add on that. I interviewed a psychic sometime years ago, and she went to the doctors and was diagnosed with cancer. And she knew he was lying.
oh,
It wasn't even that he genuinely thought she did, because the test results coming back a certain way. She knew he was lying, which set her off on an investigative path. And it has since come out. There's been several doctors who have been accused of this, deliberately diagnosing people with cancer for the kickback on the treatments.
oh my God.
Yeah. So it happens.
Oh my God. That is, wow. Wow. What does fear do to our energetic field?
Oh, it's like it freezes it.
So it doesn't diminish it, but it freezes it.
Yeah. Well, that's from a visual perspective. When I see someone's field who's in fear, it looks frozen. That may be where we get the whole fear, fight or flight, or fawn business too. It's like the energetic field kind of does the same thing. Yeah, a freeze. It's like it freezes. It's like, because the energy in us is flowing constantly,
It's supposed to flow.
creating all kinds of toroidal fields and, doing all sorts of wonderful things. And it just sort of freezes.
And
And
so,
when that stops flowing, it's going to have a detrimental effect on everything.
so then the life force, the energy of life force stops flowing, or at least it sort of doesn't flow as it should for life and for health to continue in the way that it was designed to. Okay. So you talked about, in the beginning when we started, you talked about how the sacral area is the seat of the soul. And that, of course, makes perfect sense for those listening. That's where life is created, in the sacral area. That's where women carry the life. That's where men carry the seed of life. So what does fear do to that area, to the sacral, to life force, to creativity, to the creation energy?
I guess this is what they call in Chinese, the meridians and the chi life, the chi flow of life force and stuff like that, and how we get blockages. So I guess that's the same thing I'm seeing. Is like it looks frozen to me. It's blocked. So like stagnant water becomes gross,
Gross, muddy,
and
it starts to smell.
and yeah, and it becomes an environment for bugs and bacteria and insects and all sorts of things. We're doing the same thing with our energy flow. Like even they talk about you've heard that you've got a gut brain, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's actually our primary brain is the one that's in our gut, in our sacral, and it even informs the head, for example. So we carry a certain amount of water in our heads, in our brain, and the brain holds on to that water until the gut tells it, you can let it go. We've got some fresh water
coming.
And if you're not drinking enough, it doesn't have to be a lot of water, but if you're not drinking enough, then the water in the head becomes stagnant. And
I'd like to take a quick break now to let you know that today's show is sponsored by my book, Against Medical Advice. This book is a memoir, and it tells the story of how I built my life back after suffering a stroke during my divorce. I discuss the nutritional, lifestyle, and mindset aspects that I put into practice to regain my health and rebuild my life. The book has been a labor of love, both writing it and publishing it, and I couldn't be more proud of it. Please pick up your copy from Amazon. For your very own signed copy, my email address is simone@simonegisondi.com. Oh, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd please consider leaving a review once you've read the book. And now, back to the show.
Headaches and foggy thinking and who knows what. So, and it's the same energetically or emotionally, where if you can allow the heart to inform the mind instead of the mind informing the heart.
Which is always...
Yeah. We lead with this instead of this most of the time,
Yes.
And logic and reason and things like that. But when you really sit in your true core heart space and allow that to inform the mind, your decisions will be better. Absolutely. You'll make the right decisions, not necessarily logical ones or ones that other people might understand, but you will make the right ones for you. So energetically, the heart informs the mind. Physically, the sacral, the gut informs, the gut brain informs this brain. And on the next energetic level is that the life force that sits here in the sacral informs all of it, the heart and the mind.
Yes, that makes sense. The seat of creativity informs the body so that it can propagate its existence, its creation. Because we know, physiologically speaking, new cells are always created. Therefore, new tissues get created. Therefore, systems and organs get created. So the body's always in a state of creation. So then it makes perfect sense if the sacral, which is the seat of creation, informs the rest of the body. Because then at least the body knows exactly how to continue to create itself.
Well, for example, we apparently have a new liver every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you were to go to the doctor and be told that there's something wrong with your liver, what he should say is go home, think good thoughts, talk to your liver, laugh a lot, and come back in 6 weeks.
Let go of anger.
Deal with whatever you're angry about.
Yeah, especially because the energy of anger gets stored in the liver. I know my dad was that guy, and he had massive liver issues, and it was because he was always angry. I try to understand them. So what does the body experience in the presence of real unconditional love? And I also want to identify unconditional love. What is there a condition? Can we accept betrayal? Can we accept lying? Can we accept people's behaviors that are not necessarily aligned with love out of just because we want to be in that state of unconditional love?
Yeah, it does get distorted. It's like, if you're in unconditional love, you just become a doormat.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because that unconditional love has to be there for you first and foremost. And yes, it's okay to have boundaries. You may find a better way than punching somebody in the face if you're in a space of unconditional love. But no, it certainly doesn't mean you become a doormat. And your love for yourself, your love for truth, your love for harmony, your love for respect for both, it's love for, if you can, when you're in a situation in the now moment where that's not what's going on, where you're being disrespected, where you're being abused, there's two ways to react. There's one of anger and indignation and even a desire for revenge, or there's what do I love that is more important than this in this moment? Okay, I love me. So, you know what? Your behavior is unacceptable. I love truth. I find your lies unacceptable. I love the soul behind this behavior, and I will love that, but the behavior is unacceptable. And we can go our separate ways until you are in a place where you can meet me in that place with respect, with a desire for truth. It all sounds very civilized, I know, and doesn't necessarily play out that way. But finding what you love rather than what you want to fight in those moments can bring you up out of the battle frequency. Because those things can only these battles can only work if we're both playing. And I've seen this many times, and it's because either I've been the one who's been able to do that or someone else has. And the reaction is one of two things. They will either even right there and then in that moment, drop that bullshit and meet you up here, or they'll run away. So nothing, and I don't care whether it's another person, an illness, an interdimensional being, some sort of nasty energy, it doesn't matter what it is, it really cannot hold the the energy that it's operating in the face of genuine unconditional love.
So it's easy for us to have unconditional love for ourselves, especially if we put these boundaries to say, I love myself so much that I do not deserve that kind of behavior or the betrayal or the lies or so on and so forth. But do even people that are not necessarily, let's say, good people love themselves unconditionally to that degree? Or do they step so far out of love that they...
This is where it gets tricky.
Yes, it does.
Because this is when it becomes sort of like narcissistic and psychopathic.
Yes.
And that is not the kind of love I'm talking about, because that is they seem to love themselves unconditionally to the point of an arrogant disdain for others
Exactly.
or a carelessness for others. And that's a distortion. It's an absolute distortion, because when you're in this state that I'm referring to, you can't see anybody as less than.
That's very true.
You just the idea of causing pain is painful. So that is something else. Whatever. That is some sort of, like I said, narcissistic, psychopathic distortion. I know it's a cliche that we are all one, but it is a state of, what's the word I'm looking for? But it's like a state of shared emotions, shared feelings. Like when you're really in that state, you feel what they're feeling. And if you can feel the pain you're causing them, you're feeling it, and it doesn't feel good.
I remember having this conversation with my ex-husband when I said, hurting me should feel like you cutting your arm off your body.
Mm-hmm.
that you will bleed to death. But sometimes this doesn't land in the way that we understand things. Doesn't mean that somebody else understands them in the same way or from the same place. So it makes sense to us because we're so much more in touch, whereas other people around us, and oftentimes the people we choose to be in life partnership with, that actually don't meet us there. So in that sense, can unconditional love be fierce?
Like I said earlier, it's a weapon. Absolutely.
Because I know that a lot of people think that unconditional love is just softness, and
It's turning the other cheek.
that's right.
Again and again and again and again.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's not. It can be very fierce.
Yes, because a lot of people think that, well, I have to love him. Unconditional love means that I have to accept what he does or what she does. Or unconditional means that there are no conditions. It's just a free-for-all, unendingly.
No, you do not have to have them in your life at all. But you will always love the being. You will always love the soul. You can dislike the character. You can dislike the personality. But because at the end of the day, that's what we are in these little meat suits. These are personas, they're personalities, they're characters that we're choosing to express through. But behind that is a soul that's just as beautiful, just as powerful, just as capable of unconditional love as you are. And they're having a distorted experience through that character right now, and that's fine. You go do you.
You go do you over there, I'm going to do me over here. So what happens in the body when love is truly present, especially unconditional love? And on that same note, is the love first and foremost for ourselves, of course, for the self, for our soul, for our body. But then does it have to, for example, this is going to sound very out there, but do we have to have love for the disease that we are given, like the diagnosis, let's say? Should love encompass that?
If you allow it to really teach you, then you can start with gratitude. Thank you for the opportunity to see the underlying issue that I've got going on here. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for giving me this massive message. I think trying to force yourself to love it is not going to work. But if you can potentially, then some people can get very attached to their diagnosis too and their labels.
Yes. Because
but
a
if
lot
you
of people
see
get
it as
attention.
Or it gives them a sense of identity.
That's right.
You see this a lot in recovery groups, survivor groups. I'm a survivor of. That's their new label. That's their new identity. But perhaps just starting with gratitude for the opportunity to see whatever the underlying cause is and see where that takes you. Because, like I said, forcing it is not going to work.
I don't think I've met anybody, and I'm talking about even people that have gone through, let's say, heartbreaks, because you spoke about that in the beginning, but people who have gone through horrible diseases. I interviewed a woman just the other day, and she healed naturally. She did not go to the medical world. She healed stage 3 colorectal cancer that she was diagnosed with, and she did everything, most of what you mentioned, homeopathic and all natural. And she said, much like everybody else that I've interviewed and spoken with, Oh, my cancer was so great. It was such a gift. I'm so grateful for the fact that that came to me, because I really was able to turn inwards and really love myself.
Mm.
Every single person, bar none, always speaks so highly, especially the ones who are conscious, of course. They speak so highly of their disease because it really brings them to that place of, okay, it stops here. Up until now, I've been abandoning and giving away my energy, giving away my power, and now it's back to me. And I'm forced to come face to face with myself and really start giving myself the love that I haven't given myself for years or forever, even maybe sometimes.
Yeah, often.
And she spoke exactly of what you said, that she started to love herself. And she believes to this day that the reason why she healed is because she started loving herself. And that was her answer. And because she started loving herself, because I know that a lot of people, if they're going to listen to that episode, I just released it, they're going to say that, well, no, it's because she went and she did hypnotherapy, or she went and she did homeopathic, and she did vitamin C IV therapy. It's like, yeah, she did all those things because she loved herself so much that she gave herself those things to heal.
Actually,
Because a lot of people think it's the things, not that you do the things because you love yourself.
There's a story I told recently at a live event about a gentleman here in Australia who probably had the first, but certainly the biggest online health store. And he was dealing in all kinds of like the most obscure alternative treatments and remedies and things. He was diagnosed with throat cancer. Now, he used to be a pastor, I believe, who had an affair with one of the women in his congregation. He was married with children, and his marriage broke up. He ended up marrying the woman, but he lost everything. He lost his relationship with his kids. He lost his church. He lost everything, and started this new life with this health store. He had access to every potential natural remedy and he tried them all. But the one thing he would not do is talk about his pain, about his guilt, about his shame. He wouldn't talk to anybody. And he did pass as a result of throat cancer. And everyone knew that he had all of these feelings. Everyone knew he felt so much shame and guilt and pain about the way things had evolved and turned out, the loss of his kids, the loss of the respect of his church and congregation, all of that. But he would never speak of it, even when his life depended on it.
I bet you there's a lot of people who would do that exact thing because of the stigma and because of the pride.
There was so much that he just held on to right here.
That's so sad, because you think of people who, especially people who are, that is so prevalent, people who are of God, let's say, so from church, you think that, oh, this person's holy, of course, like how could disease touch him? Or they say the same thing about people who are, oh, well, Wayne Dyer, he was a spiritual man. He spoke at length about spirituality. How could he die of cancer? So a lot of people feel that by virtue of the fact that you're holy or spiritual, that disease is not going to touch you. Why do you think people even think that?
Well, not everyone walks the talk. And we're all challenged to walk our talk.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know all of this stuff. It's another thing to embody it.
That's right. even to apply it.
and then to apply it. Yeah.
And especially because I know that I don't want people to think, because it's not about saying that love magically fixes everything, but it's about asking whether the body will then respond differently when it's no longer being attacked from the very inside of the self. Because I think that oftentimes we attack through the thoughts, much like what you said. It's from the inside out. So we do that damage from the inside out. And of course, then we also have what we're facing from the outside in, the fear mongering and all of that stuff. So imagine if there's just an all out attack on the body and on the self, especially if you're going to be saying, because you're not only saying it to the body, but you're also saying it to yourself. If you have beliefs or thoughts that you are inadequate, not enough, not worthy. And a lot of people have that. And we all carry shame and things of that nature, especially because of the indoctrination and the way that we've been conditioned.
I know you said you don't want people thinking potentially that, love can do everything, but it kind of can.
Even magically, would you say?
Well, yeah, I've seen it. I've experienced it.
Just in
It
a
can.
state of absolute love.
Yeah, it really can. It changes your body. It changes your environment. It changes the people around you.
So is that love for the self first and foremost, or is it this? Does it
No,
have
it's
the
not
same
even
effect?
for anything. It's just, or it's everything. It's just a state of
Being.
being. It's a state of being. It's not an emotion, as I said, and it's not necessarily for anything. It's just being it.
I think a lot of people don't know how that is even. Let's say they say, "Yeah, I want to do that. I want to be like that. I want to be in that state of love. I want to embody love. What do I do? How do I do that?" Because I myself, I could admit to this, and I was talking to my friends. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like I hold anger and resentment towards people that have done me wrong. I'm like, but I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to feel resentment. Like, for what? It's just, I feel like I'm carrying heavy luggage every day from point A to point B everywhere I go. So I don't want to feel that anymore. But how do you not feel it anymore when you just naturally feel it? And a lot of people, let's say, would want to embody the natural being of love. But how do you do it? And you have to eliminate one thing to allow another to come in. Because when you're in a state of love, you can't be angry in a state of love. You can't be holding on to resentment and negative things.
It's actually not true.
Oh, really? You can be angry and love unconditionally?
At the same time. Yeah, I know.
Oh, tell us
It's.
how.
Remember, I said we somehow managed to hold two things at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because one's a state of being and one's an emotion.
This is so freeing for me. I could be angry. Doesn't mean I don't love.
But then, yeah, well, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's this state of being, this unconditional love state of being. But then you've got all these emotions,
Yeah.
which are not that, right? But that's what they are: anger, fear, um, romantic love, or disappointment, whatever it is. They're emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and we can be in that state and hold one of these emotions. Okay, they're short-lived though when you're in that state, and you find yourself going beyond the emotion. It falls away. You uh, you don't live there. You can't. It's hard to live there. You can feel it. It fleets. It's fleeting. You can acknowledge it. First thing would be not to then judge yourself for having that emotion, because that'll pull you out of the unconditional love place, being in
Mm-hmm.
judgment of yourself.
Yeah.
um, acknowledge it. You can then potentially find some gratitude in the situation you're referring to with the particular person, because it's, even if it's been a long time, 20 years ago, this person did me wrong, but it's leading me to this moment what I'm having right now. Thanks. Can let go. Uh, You sort of, you can ride the you can ride the emotions, but they allow them to be fleeting, and look for the next one. Look for a better emotion. And you can do that a lot easier when you're sitting in this place of unconditional love. Does that make sense?
Yes, and you just reminded me through what you just said. Um, I did this course, and the girl who was teaching it said, and this she comes from the Dr. Joe Dispenza side, and she said, "Did you know
Mm-hmm.
that when you feel anger, for example," she said, "if you were to just sit with it, in 90 seconds it dissipates." So she said, we choose to carry it forever and ever, for years, for decades, for months, for however long you carry it for. She said, but if you were to just sit with it for 90 seconds, which is a minute and a half, literally, it goes away by itself. It kind of like the energy goes through you and then it releases. And I'm like,
Because,
oh,
like I said, we are constantly wanting to
so true. Yeah.
be in that state, that up here state, whether it's physically with the body wanting to reach its optimal, or whether it's us energetically wanting to stay in this high frequency of love. We're always reaching for
Magnetized towards it.
it. Mm.
So imagine if, because oftentimes we all react within that 90-second period. That's why we call it a reaction. It's instant. It's knee jerk.
Mm.
You
Mm.
just, but imagine, and I thought about it. I'm like, I really want somebody to make me angry so I could see if I can sit with it for 90 seconds. It would be great practice. And it probably would take a couple of times to be like, it felt really good to just sit with it for 90 seconds and not actually expend energy to feed that, but just sit with it and
It's
then,
hard work. It's actually hard work for us to stay
yeah,
down here. It takes focused attention and hard work to
just
stay in anger,
in
to
anger.
stay in pain, to stay. We have to work at that shit,
Oh,
and rather than let it go. So much easier.
because I think we're just so used to it that we don't know any other way. That's why a lot of people react with anger. Even myself, because I've been conditioned. I mean, I grew up with my dad was so angry my whole life that that's all I knew, and I thought, well, that's normal. This is how I should do it. I should, because you look to
Mhm.
those who raise you as the example or the template for life. Um, but I really want the audience to know more about love. Do you think that right now, based on everything that you said, that humanity is being asked to remember love, or how we are love, or how love is our power right now with everything going on in the world? And a lot is going on.
Oh, a lot. Yes, we are. We are being invited, asked, and the energetic environment is supporting us remembering who we are. And who we are is that unconditional love frequency.
And why now? What's so magical about now?
Sorry, I just lost audio for a sec.
Oh, I said, why now? Why? What's magical about now that it humanity's brought to this place of remembering itself? Is there something that's turning that on at this moment in time on the grand scheme?
Yeah, that's part of a much bigger conversation about
Mm-hmm.
the nature of this reality in itself.
Yeah.
let's just say that it is time. It's overtime, actually, that we
Overtime.
should have, we're well into overtime. We should have gone, let's just say the cycle that this reality's been in, which I believe you and I are going to have a different conversation at some point about all of
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yes.
um, is closing. It's closing out. This cycle of control, manipulation, lies, distortion, systems is coming to an end. And as you said, so much is going on. And a lot of what is going on is actually the energy being pulled out of all of those things.
Oh.
So the that environment is getting weaker and weaker and weaker, which is, and again, we're just doing what we naturally do without it, without all that energetic and systemic pressure to keep us down here. As the energy is being pulled out of that, we're rising naturally. And it's just a massive remembering process, really. What we call the awakening or waking up or the ascension or whatever it is, whatever label you want to give it.
Yeah. So then is love
It's
the
us.
frequency of sovereignty too?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you maybe have noticed too that word sovereign is exploding again, this time in a very positive way. Whether it's sovereign nations, sovereign states, sovereign individuals, because it was given such a dirty, it became a dirty word, associated with anti-establishment and anti-government people who think they're sovereigns. You know, um,
Yes.
now people are actually beginning, I think, to understand what it really means. And yeah, it's become part of the mainstream vernacular now, in a good way.
In a very good way. And I talk about biological. I've always said biological sovereignty. You shouldn't be coerced, pushed, or pressured, or any of that to allow anything to be done to the body that's yours. So even that biological sovereignty, so that one of the systems that you said that all the systems, the energy is being pulled out of them. And I think the medical system is one of them
Mm-hmm.
at the moment,
Massively
especially.
right now, yeah.
Yeah. So then, how does someone begin practicing the level of love that you speak of so that they could start healing? Because there is a lot of people who already know they have diagnosis, but then there are people who perhaps are on their way to getting sick or becoming sick unbeknownst to them. But if they were to be able to step in that place of love, they would be able to avoid getting to that.
Okay, I can give you, this is like baby steps process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not going to call it meditation, but start with just thinking about and remembering moments, people, experiences that just bring you joy.
Mm.
And I want you to allow that feeling to sit here in this higher heart until you're crying or beaming or whatever you're doing. Just allow it to build until you feel the emotion, at least, of a lot of love.
Okay.
And then knowing, with a knowing, that your very soul, your very essence is also sitting in here or connected in here with a breath. Allow that energy, all that love to flow down and sit into your sacral. Okay? Allow love to drop down into the sacral, where it will, let's say, blend with your soul life force. Okay? And then just breathe, and breathe it back up through the heart again, into the head, and just allow it to flow in a circular motion.
Would visualizing that
And
help?
yes, visualizing it,
Perfect.
breathing, visualizing of the energy just flowing. You'll know, okay, slightly risque. You'll know you're doing something if you start to feel sexual energy moving.
Okay.
Okay. Because that's one of the most powerful forms. It's creation. Our sexual energy is our creation energy. This is why sex has been so distorted. Because it's a very powerful creational energy. And it's been so distorted. But it's one of the first ways you will feel your true creative life force. And then again, you just breathe that up all the way through the heart into the head. And you can get to a place where the whole body is just, it's just vibrating and activating, and you can feel it all running through every part of you. It's blissful. It's ecstatic. It's orgasmic. And it sounds silly to talk about it like this, but that's actually how it is. You think you're doing something wrong potentially, but you're not. It's a very powerful creative force.
So it's the movement of energy through all the centers that you said are the most important and the most powerful. Okay. So that's how you start practicing. Would the body still be able to heal if, let's say, you practice all of this, but let's say your soul has given up, quietly given up? Would the physical body, the biological body, still be able to heal? Or the soul has to be on board?
Yes, the soul has to be on board. And the soul wants to see its journey through. But here, this is a strange. What makes I'll make it personal. I would not assume that my mind and my personality knows more than my soul or knows what's best. I would trust that my soul knows what's best. And I'm an aspect of that. And I'm not trying to diminish myself, because it is a symbiotic relationship. But I know that my soul came here with a plan. And I'm going to trust, if I can allow the soul to take over the plan and not fight it, again, get out of my own way.
Let the soul drive the bus.
Yeah. And if it truly has decided that there are bigger and better adventures for me to move on to, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah, because a lot of people challenge when they see that, oh, well, so and so did everything right and they did this and they still died. Like, I mean, they still, and so what do you say to that? And oftentimes I say, but a lot of people don't accept it, to say, if the soul has said that the end of the road has come here, I said, it will exit by whatever means. Sometimes it's a car accident, sometimes it's a disease, sometimes it's, dare I say it, murder. Somebody has come to end that journey. But if the soul is ready to exit, no matter what we do, it's just the time has come, and we have to realize that something much, much bigger than us knows much, much more than us, because it's not operating from mind, but something bigger.
And it's just the end of a chapter. It's not the end of the story.
It's just the end of this experience here, but the soul keeps going to the next experience, right? Whatever that may be. And what about reincarnation? I know that this is kind of shifting away from health, but I still want people to understand. Do we come back into this experience as a human here on earth to fulfill all that we are meant to fulfill as humans, and then we move on? Or do we at any given time have the free will to say, it's been fun here, but I'm gone, I'm out, I'm not coming back here, I'm just going to move on to something better?
Yeah, once you, yes. You have the free will to choose which reality you want to experience. And when and how many times.
Okay. So
because this isn't the only one.
Yeah. I know that some people believe it is, but absolutely not. I mean, I think that there's probably going to be a disclosure of some sorts that's going to allow us to understand that, yeah, this is not the only one. And what does it feel like to, or what does it mean, rather, to love the body before it gives you the results that you want, which a lot of people want to heal wholeheartedly, fully? So
sorry, say that again. What do you mean?
What does it mean to love the body before it gives you the results that you want?
Are you saying
as you're going through the disease and you're in pain, and a lot of people that I work with, they feel betrayed by their body. They feel like the body has come to punish them. They feel the suffering. And they feel that the body is doing that as karmic or something of that nature. And
well, that's a belief system.
Yeah.
So all you can do is try and replace it with a different belief system, which is it's not a punisher, it's a messenger.
Yeah.
And if try and get your head around that, like we talked about earlier, it's here to let you know you're holding onto something you need to let go of, or that's in your best interest to let go of. Whether it's, like you say, the anger in the liver or the
grief in the lungs,
the suppressed
yes,
expression in the throat, or the grief in the lungs, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Fear in the kidneys.
Fear in the kidneys. I mean, UTI infections are so prevalent in women, and
yes,
they literally are an expression of us being pissed off.
Oh wow, pissed off. Oh.
And most of the time we don't even realize we are, because we're so used to operating at a certain level of like mild aggravation anyway.
That is very apropos.
We don't even realize we are.
Yeah. What about the gynecological feminine cancers that a lot of women, which are in the most creative part, the seat of the soul, as you mentioned, in the sacral area, because that's where, and that's obviously exclusive to women: ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, cervical cancer, those types of cancers. Are they because of the feminine that's been repressed, especially if you think about it sexually. Women have never been allowed to be in their full sexuality, and they've always been repressed. Does that play a role in the
Yeah, I think so.
prevalence of those cancers?
Sexual guilt in a lot
Sexual
of
shame?
ways. Shame and guilt, yeah.
Mm.
And and it can be for different reasons. It can be because maybe you bought into the whole I can have everything and do everyone thinking, and yet somewhere deep down it's hurting your soul and you know it. Or it's because you have not been able to express yourself. You felt suppressed and you have not been able to express yourself in the way you would like to sexually. Um, and the breast cancer, for example, always seems to be around our maternal issues, whether it's an issue with our mother or our mothering. Um, and that always seems to come down to guilt and shame.
Probably the lowest frequency. I think shame is lowest on the scale.
Oh, in the power versus force scale.
Yes, 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 that one. Wow, I could ask so many more questions, but I know that we've taken so much time. So thank you so much for this conversation, Lisa. You are so great, and I look so forward to having the deeper conversation that you referred to earlier. So, of course, what I took from everything that you said is that love is not a passive, sentimental, naive kind of a thing. It's powerful. It's a frequency and a field, and the original ways that the body remembers safety and coherence and life force, the flow of energy for healing. And of course, you talked about the sacral energy. So, of course, that refers to way more than just sexuality, because you did say that that is where the soul, that's the home of the soul, because obviously that's where we create life from. So we're talking about the force, the vitality, the creation, and all of those things. Um, is there
You
anywhere
know,
that people?
I just wanted to add something about that too, because
Yeah,
in a lot of the new age stuff, or you know, those who talk about chakras, it's always anything sort of like below the solar plexus is like that's the lower chakras. You know, you want to ignore
the
those. It's
three
all
lower.
about being up here. It's all
Yeah,
about being up here.
that's right.
And by doing that, we're neglecting our power center, which is our sacral, and it's another distortion.
That's so true, because I know that even in the things that I've done, um, there's a big movement towards like moving uh, the spinal fluid up towards the brain, towards the pineal gland. So you want to move the energy to the brain, which of course is it basically receives the energy of the universe. But you're right, if creativity starts in even Napoleon Hill talked about transmuting your sexual energy into creation of other things. If you're not going to create a human life, you want to create whatever it may be, a business or something. Um, so that is where life literally starts.
Mm,
So therefore,
literally.
it must be the most powerful if that's where life itself starts. And there are women who do a lot of womb healing for other women. So some women do understand that, especially for us women, that's where all of our power is, because that's where life, we grow life there. So, um, but where can people find you or your work if they want to? Do you teach? Do you have any kind of classes? Do you have groups? Do you lead anything? How can people get a hold of you?
Um, well, for those who want an insight into my journey and the bigger conversation you and I'll be having, there is a podcast that I did called Deconstructing the Construct. which is
Deconstructing the
only
concept.
6 episodes with a couple of Q&As.
Mm-hmm.
I do have, I don't do anything on a regular basis in terms of teachings. It really is um, when needed, when I feel there is something the collective needs to address. So there's a few of those on my website. So Lisa, it's just my name, lisamharrison.com. You
Lisa,
can see
I'll
see
have
what's
that.
going on over there.
Yes, I'll have that in the show notes so that anybody who wants to see more of this, and especially deconstructing the construct, that alone, so 6 episodes, make sure you go check that out. Is that on YouTube, Lisa?
It's on YouTube. It's on all the platforms.
All platforms. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for anybody listening who's been trying to heal through fear, control, panic, self-punishment, trying to correct the body, I hope this conversation has offered a different doorway, a different path for healing. And of course, the possibility of entering a relationship with the body, a loving relationship, rather than fighting the body or trying to correct it or fix it, when it can do all of that by itself just so easily. So thank you so much for joining us. Lisa, thank you for bringing all of your wisdom and your amazing frequency to this space. I really appreciate you and everything that you've shared. And of course, if this conversation resonated with you out there listening, please take a moment to subscribe, to leave a review, and share the episode with someone who needs to hear it or who needs to love themselves, or at least start the path of loving themselves. And if you want to see more into the world of healing, you can find me on Instagram at simone.gisondi and stay connected there for upcoming episodes, different guests, writings, and offerings from the original Code of Healing. And of course, stay curious and definitely stay sovereign. I know I'm using that word, Lisa. I always say it, stay sovereign and keep listening to the intelligence of your body, because the body doesn't only need to be loved, it needs to be loved back to life. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on Health Confidential, where healing is more than just symptom relief. It's a return to the body's original blueprint, guided by truth, intuition, and cellular intelligence. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And follow me on Instagram at simone.gisondi for daily insights, behind the scenes wisdom, and holistic inspiration. To explore working with me and to get your own custom made healing protocol, visit simonegisondi.com and book your private consultation to start working together. Remember, your body is sacred, your intuition is gold, and healing is your birthright. I'm Simone Gisondi, and this has been Health Confidential. See you in the next episode.